"Come home with me if you want," said the lone rancher to a Chinese woman on Christmas Eve. Christmas Eve arrived quietly in the small countryside town, wrapped in cold air and soft snow. The road that cut through the town looked almost empty, with only a few lights glowing from distant houses. Most people were already home, sitting with family, sharing food, laughter, and warmth. But not everyone had a place to go that night. The rancher drove his old pickup slowly, careful on the icy road. He had lived in this town for many years, long enough to know every turn and every field. His ranch was several miles outside town, surrounded by open land and wooden fences that creaked in the wind. Life had taught him to live simply. He woke early, worked hard, and returned home to silence. That was his routine. Years ago, his house had been full of voices. His wife used to hum while cooking, and their evenings were filled with small conversations that made life feel complete. But illness had taken her away, and since then, the rancher had learned how quiet a home could be. He never remarried. He didn't complain either. He believed some losses were meant to be carried, not replaced. That evening, he had come into town for basic supplies, animal feed, bread, and fuel. He hadn't planned to stay long. Christmas had lost its meaning for him over the years. It was just another day, colder than most. As he passed the closed grocery store near the town square, something unusual caught his attention. Near the sidewalk stood a woman, alone. She was holding a small bag close to her chest. Her coat looked thin for the weather, and her shoulders were tense, as if she was trying to protect herself from more than just the cold. The rancher slowed down and glanced again. She didn't look like someone waiting for a ride. She looked unsure, as if she didn't know where to go next. Snow gathered on her hair, and she brushed it away with stiff fingers. Her face showed exhaustion more than fear, but both were there. The rancher parked his truck nearby. He sat for a moment, his hands resting on the steering wheel. He told himself it was none of his business. People had their own lives, their own problems. Still, something held him in place. He stepped out of the truck, the cold air biting his face. As he walked closer, the woman looked up. Her eyes widened slightly, and she took a small step back. He immediately stopped, raising one hand gently to show he meant no harm. "It's cold out here," he said slowly. She nodded, but it was clear she didn't fully understand his words. Her accent was strong when she spoke. "Yes, very cold." Her English was broken but understandable. That was enough for him to continue carefully. "Are you waiting for someone?" he asked. She hesitated, then shook her head. "No." The silence between them felt heavy. Snow continued to fall, and the town seemed even quieter now. He noticed her hands were red from the cold. "Do you have a place to go?" he asked. This time, she didn't answer right away. Her eyes lowered to the ground. After a few seconds, she shook her head again, more slowly. The rancher felt a tightness in his chest. He didn't ask for details. He had learned that sometimes people shared when they were ready, not when they were questioned. "My name is Jack," he said, pointing lightly to himself. She seemed to understand. "May," she replied, placing a hand over her heart. Jack nodded. "Nice to meet you, May." Another pause followed. Jack could feel the cold reaching his bones. He knew he couldn't leave her there, not on a night like this. Still, he was careful. He didn't want to scare her or make her uncomfortable. "I live outside town," he said, speaking slowly and clearly. "I have a warm house." She looked at him, confused. "You can stay," he continued, choosing his words carefully. "Just for the night, food, heat, rest." May studied his face. Her eyes moved from his worn jacket to his tired expression. He didn't look like someone pretending. He looked like someone who had lived through hard times and understood them. "Nothing else," he added quickly. "Just help." She swallowed, clearly thinking. Life had taught her to be careful. She had trusted people before, and it had not ended well. But the cold was harsh, and she had nowhere else to go. "Tonight?" she asked softly. "Yes," Jack replied. "Christmas Eve, bad night to be alone." She gave a small, uncertain smile. "Every night bad when alone." Her words struck him more deeply than he expected. He nodded slowly. "Yes, I know." After a long moment, May finally nodded. "Okay." Jack felt relief wash over him, though he kept his expression calm. He gestured toward the truck. "We'll go now. It's warmer inside." He opened the passenger door and stepped back, giving her space. She climbed in carefully, placing her bag on her lap as if it were the most valuable thing she owned. Jack closed the door and walked around to his side. As they drove away from town, neither spoke. The heater hummed softly and the windshield wipers moved steadily. May stared out the window, watching the lights fade behind them. Jack focused on the road, aware of the responsibility he had just taken on. After several minutes, May broke the silence. "You live alone?" "Yes," Jack said. "Long time now," she nodded. "Me too, long time." The ranch came into view, lights glowing warmly against the dark land. The house was modest but sturdy, built to last through storms and years of use. Jack parked and stepped out first, making sure the path was clear. He led her inside, where the warmth hit them immediately. May sighed quietly, her shoulders relaxing for the first time that night. "You can sit," Jack said, pointing to the chair near the fireplace. "I'll make food." She nodded, watching him move around the kitchen with practiced ease. The house smelled of wood, coffee, and something familiar yet distant, like memories that never fully faded. As Jack prepared a simple meal, he felt something shift inside him. The house didn't feel as empty as it usually did. It wasn't happiness exactly, but it wasn't loneliness either. May wrapped her hands around a warm cup of tea he handed her. "Thank you," she said softly, her voice full of meaning. Jack nodded. "You're welcome." Outside, the snow continued to fall, covering the land in quiet white. Inside the house, two strangers sat under the same roof on Christmas Eve, brought together not by plans or promises, but by kindness and the simple need not to be alone. And though neither of them knew it yet, this night was only the beginning. The next morning arrived quietly, just like the night before. Pale winter light slipped through the curtains and touched the wooden floor of the ranch house. The warmth inside felt different from the cold outside, almost protective. For a moment, everything was still. Jack woke early, as he always did. Years of ranch work had trained his body to rise before the sun. He sat on the edge of his bed, listening. The house was no longer completely silent. There was a soft sound from the other room, a small movement, like someone shifting under blankets. It reminded him that he was not alone this morning. He stood up slowly and moved to the kitchen. He started the kettle and took out bread and eggs. He didn't want to wake May suddenly, so he kept his movements quiet. Still, a few minutes later she appeared at the doorway. Her hair was slightly messy, and she wore the sweater he had given her the night before. It looked too big on her, but it kept her warm. "Good morning," Jack said gently. She hesitated, then smiled. "Good morning." Her English sounded a little clearer today, though still careful. She looked around the kitchen as if seeing it properly for the first time. Everything was simple: wooden cabinets, old photographs on the wall, a clock ticking softly. Nothing fancy, but everything felt solid. "Did you sleep okay?" Jack asked. She nodded. "Yes, very good, warm, thank you," he nodded back. "I'll make breakfast. Sit, please." She sat at the small table, folding her hands in her lap. Jack cooked slowly, glancing at her from time to time. She looked calmer than the night before, but there was still a guarded look in her eyes, as if she was afraid this peace might disappear suddenly. They ate quietly at first. The food was simple, but May ate with care, as if she did not want to waste anything. After a few minutes, Jack spoke again. "You don't have to rush today," he said. "The roads are bad, snow's still falling." She looked up. "I don't know where to go." Jack paused, then nodded. "That's okay. You can stay today, we'll figure things out." Her shoulders relaxed a little. "Thank you, I don't want trouble." "You're not trouble," Jack said firmly. She studied his face as if deciding whether to believe him. Then she nodded. After breakfast, Jack showed her the house. He explained where things were: the bathroom, the heater, the extra blankets. He spoke slowly, using simple words. She followed closely, listening carefully, sometimes repeating words under her breath to remember them. Later, Jack put on his jacket and boots. "I need to check the animals," he said. "You can rest, or if you want you can come." She hesitated. "I want to help." He considered this for a moment. "It's cold, work is hard." She nodded. "I can try." Jack smiled slightly. "Okay, try." Outside, the air was sharp and clean. May wrapped the coat tighter around herself as they walked across the yard. The ranch stretched wide and quiet, covered in snow. The animals moved slowly, their breath visible in the cold air. Jack showed her how to carry feed and where to place it. She watched closely, copying his movements. She was careful, sometimes too careful, but she didn't complain. Her hands shook from the cold, but she kept going. "You don't have to do this," Jack said at one point. She shook her head. "I like to help, makes me feel useful." He nodded, understanding more than he said. By late morning they returned inside. May's cheeks were red from the cold and Jack poured her another cup of tea. She held it tightly, warming her hands. After a moment of silence she spoke. Why you help me?" Jack leaned back in his chair. The question was simple, but the answer was not. "I saw you alone," he said slowly. "Christmas Eve. No one should be alone like that." She nodded. "I was afraid." "I could see that," he replied. She looked down at her cup. "I came here for work. Someone said good job, but then no job, no home." Jack didn't interrupt. He let her speak in her own time. "I don't know many people. English not good." "I didn't want to bother anyone," she continued. "You didn't bother me," Jack said quietly. She looked up at him, surprised. "Really?" "Yes," he said. "House has been too quiet for years." She didn't know what to say to that. Instead, she nodded again. The rest of the day passed slowly. Jack made a few phone calls, asking about local help centers and temporary work. He didn't say much about it to May, not wanting to give false hope, but he wanted to prepare. In the afternoon, May cleaned the kitchen without being asked. She moved carefully as if trying to prove she belonged there. Jack watched her for a moment, then said, "You don't have to earn your stay." She stopped and looked at him. "I know, but I want to." He nodded. "All right." As evening came, snow began falling again. Jack cooked dinner, and this time they talked a little more. May asked about the ranch, about the animals, about his life. He answered simply. He didn't talk about his past much, but she didn't push. After dinner, they sat near the fireplace. The flames flickered softly, filling the room with warmth. "Tomorrow," Jack said, "I'll take you to town, see what options you have." She nodded, but her face showed worry. "If I cannot find place," Jack thought for a moment, "then we keep trying, one day at a time." She smiled faintly. "You very kind." He shook his head. "Just doing what's right." That night, as May returned to the guest room, she felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: safety. It wasn't a solution to everything, but it was enough for now. Jack sat alone in the living room after she went to bed. The house felt different again. Not crowded, not loud, just warmer. He stared into the fire, wondering how one simple choice had already begun to change his quiet life. Outside, the wind howled softly across the fields. Inside, two lives, once moving in separate directions, were slowly beginning to share the same path, even if neither of them knew where it would lead. Days after Christmas moved slowly, like the winter clouds drifting across the open sky. Morning after morning, the ranch woke up to cold air and soft light. Jack followed his usual routine, but something had changed. The house no longer felt empty when he walked through it. There were small signs of another person living there now. A cup left to dry by the sink, a folded blanket on the chair, quiet footsteps moving from room to room. May settled into the rhythm of the ranch little by little. She woke early, sometimes even before Jack, and waited politely in the kitchen until he appeared. At first, she didn't know what to do with her time, but Jack showed her simple tasks. Feeding the chickens, cleaning small areas, sorting tools. He never ordered her around. He explained, then let her decide. Each day her confidence grew. Her English improved too. She asked questions, repeating words carefully until she felt comfortable using them. Jack answered patiently, correcting her gently when needed. There was no pressure, only steady learning. One afternoon, while they worked in the barn, May paused and looked around. The space was wide and quiet, filled with the sound of animals and wind brushing against the walls. "You live here many years?" she asked. "Yes," Jack replied, "most of my life." "Was hard?" she asked. Jack thought about it. "Sometimes, sometimes not." She nodded as if she understood exactly what he meant. That evening, Jack drove into town again. This time, May went with him. She sat in the passenger seat, watching the road carefully. Town looked different during the day. Small shops were open, and a few people walked along the sidewalks. Some glanced at them with curiosity, but no one said anything. Jack stopped by a local office that helped people find work and temporary housing. He spoke with the woman at the desk while May waited nearby, listening closely even when she didn't understand every word. The woman smiled kindly at May. "We'll see what we can do," she said. May bowed her head slightly. "Thank you." On the drive back, May was quiet. Jack didn't push her to talk. "Scared?" he asked gently. She nodded. "A little." "That's normal," he said. "New starts are like that." She looked out the window. "You not scared?" Jack smiled faintly. "I was, a long time ago." When they returned to the ranch, the sky was already turning orange. May helped prepare dinner, cutting vegetables slowly and carefully. Jack noticed how focused she was, as if each small task mattered deeply. During dinner, May spoke again. "In my country, family eat together every night," she said. Jack nodded. "I remember that too." "You had family?" she asked softly. "Yes," he replied. "My wife." Her eyes softened. "I'm sorry." He nodded, accepting the words. "It was a long time ago." That night the wind was strong. May had trouble sleeping, unsettled by the sound. She sat up in bed, unsure what to do. After a moment she stepped quietly into the living room. Jack was already there, sitting in his chair, staring at the fire. "Can't sleep?" he asked. She shook her head. "Too loud," he nodded. "Storm passing through." She stood there awkwardly, then asked, "Can I sit?" "Of course," he said. She sat on the other chair, keeping a careful distance. They listened to the fire crackle and the wind outside. "Thank you for letting me stay," she said after a while. "You've said that already," Jack replied gently. "I know, but I still mean it." He nodded. "I know." The days turned into a week. May received a call from the town office. There was part-time work available at a small local place, cleaning and helping in the kitchen. It wasn't much, but it was a start. She was nervous the first morning. Jack drove her into town and waited while she spoke to the manager. When she came back to the truck, she smiled widely. "I got job," she said. "That's great," Jack replied, smiling too. She worked hard every day. When she came home, tired but proud, Jack listened as she shared what she learned. Sometimes she made mistakes, but she didn't give up. People in town began to notice her. Some were curious, some cautious, but most were kind. She always spoke politely, never asking for more than she needed. At the ranch, Jack felt something he hadn't felt in years, purpose beyond work. Helping May didn't feel like a burden. It felt natural. He enjoyed explaining things, sharing meals, and hearing her laugh softly when she understood a joke. One afternoon, as they repaired a fence together, May stopped and looked at Jack seriously. "You never asked me to leave," she said. He paused. "You don't have to go until you're ready," she nodded slowly. "You trust me." "Yes," he said. She smiled, but there was emotion in her eyes. Not many people do. As winter continued, the ranch remained a quiet place, but it no longer felt lonely. Two lives, once broken in different ways, were slowly finding balance together, not through promises or plans, but through patience, respect, and shared days that grew more meaningful with time. Neither of them knew what the future held, but for now, they were not alone. And for both Jack and May, that was more than enough. Winter slowly began to loosen its grip on the land. The snow still covered the fields, but the days grew a little longer, and the sunlight stayed a little while more each afternoon. Life on the ranch followed a steady rhythm, and May had become a natural part of it. Every morning she woke up early, prepared a simple breakfast, and waited for Jack at the table. At first, Jack had insisted she didn't need to do these things, but May smiled and said it made her feel normal. Jack understood. Routine had saved him once too. May continued her part-time work in town. She walked with more confidence now, her English improving day by day. She no longer lowered her head when speaking to others. She smiled more, laughed more. Still, there were moments when worry returned quietly, usually late at night when the house was silent again. Jack noticed these changes. He noticed everything. He noticed how May paused before answering certain questions, how she looked out the window for long moments, how she folded her clothes neatly as if preparing to leave at any time. One evening after dinner, Jack cleared his throat. "You've been doing well," he said. May looked up. "At work, at everything," he replied. She smiled softly. "I try." "You don't have to try so hard," Jack said. "You're already doing enough." She looked at her hands. "I don't want to be a problem." Jack leaned forward slightly. "You're not a problem. You're a person." Her eyes filled slightly, but she blinked and nodded. As weeks passed, May began helping more on the ranch during her free time. She learned how to take care of the animals properly and even suggested small changes that made work easier. Jack was surprised by how quickly she learned. "You're smarter than you think," he told her once. She laughed lightly. "I had to be." The town slowly became more familiar to May. People greeted her by name. Some asked about her family, others about her work. She answered honestly without sharing too much. She was careful but not afraid. Still, not everyone looked kindly. Once outside a store, someone whispered something unkind when she passed. May heard it. Her steps slowed, but she kept walking. When she returned to the truck, Jack could tell something was wrong. "What happened?" he asked. She shook her head. "Nothing." Jack didn't push, but later that night he spoke firmly. "You don't deserve bad words. Don't let them sit in your heart." She looked at him. "I know. But sometimes it hurts." Jack nodded. "Yes, it does." Spring was closer now. The snow melted in patches, revealing brown earth underneath. The animals moved more freely and the air smelled different, clean, hopeful. One afternoon, May returned from work with a folded paper in her hand. She looked nervous. "What's that?" Jack asked. She took a deep breath. "They offer full-time job with small room." Jack felt something tighten inside him, though he kept his face calm. "That's good news." "Yes," she said. "Very good." They stood there in silence. "So, what will you do?" Jack asked gently. May hesitated. "I don't know," Jack nodded. "You don't have to decide right now." That night, May couldn't sleep. She sat on her bed holding the paper. Full-time work meant stability. A room meant independence. It was everything she had hoped for, but it also meant leaving the ranch. She walked into the living room quietly. Jack was there again, reading. "You awake?" she said softly. "Yes," he replied. "You too," she nodded. "Can we talk?" He put the book down. "Of course." She sat across from him, holding the paper tightly. "This place saved me," she said. "You saved me." Jack shook his head. "You saved yourself." "Maybe," she said, "but you gave me time." Jack didn't speak. "I don't want to hurt you," she continued. Jack took a slow breath. "You won't. You choosing your life doesn't hurt me." She looked at him carefully. "You mean that?" "Yes," he said honestly. "I want you safe and happy, that's all." Her eyes filled again, and this time she didn't hide it. "I'm scared," she admitted, "to leave and to stay." Jack smiled gently. "That means you're human." The next few days felt heavy. They continued their routines, but there was something unspoken between them. May tried to act normal, but Jack could see her struggle. One evening, Jack made a decision. "You don't have to leave the ranch," he said calmly, "even if you take the job." May looked surprised. "I can stay." "Yes," he said, "if that makes things easier, no pressure." She stared at him, stunned. "Why?" "Because this is your home too for now," Jack said. Tears rolled down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. May accepted the job but stayed on the ranch. Her days became busier, but she managed. Jack supported her quietly, never interfering, never controlling. As spring fully arrived, the land bloomed slowly. Flowers appeared near the fence and birds returned. The ranch felt alive again. One afternoon, as they sat on the porch, May spoke softly. "I used to think kindness always had a price." Jack looked at her. "Not always," she nodded. "I'm learning that." They didn't talk about the future in big words. They didn't need to. What they shared wasn't built on promises but on respect and care. As the sun set over the fields, Jack realized something important. He wasn't afraid of being alone anymore, and May wasn't afraid of tomorrow. Whatever came next, they would face it stronger than before. Spring moved gently into summer, and the ranch changed its colors day by day. Green returned to the fields, flowers bloomed near the fence, and the air felt lighter. Life no longer felt frozen in time. It moved forward, steady and calm. May's days were full now. She worked full-time in town and returned to the ranch in the evenings. Even when she was tired, she still smiled. She had her own small room in town if she wanted it, but she chose to come back to the ranch each night. Not because she had to, but because she wanted to. Jack noticed how natural it felt. He no longer questioned it. The ranch had become a shared space, not by decision but by habit. Meals were cooked together. Work was shared. Silence, when it came, was comfortable. May continued improving her English. She read books Jack brought home, watched local news, and practiced speaking every chance she got. Sometimes she made mistakes and laughed at herself. Jack laughed too. "You're doing great," he told her one evening. She smiled. "I used to be afraid to talk." "What changed?" Jack asked. She thought for a moment. "I stopped feeling small." Those words stayed with Jack. In town, people began to see May differently. She wasn't just a stranger anymore. She was the woman who worked hard, smiled kindly, and never complained. She helped others when she could, even with small things. Respect grew slowly, but it grew. One afternoon, the town held a small gathering to celebrate the season. Nothing fancy, just food, music, and people sitting together. May hesitated when Jack mentioned it. "You don't have to go," he said. She took a breath. "I want to try." They went together. Some people greeted Jack warmly, others nodded politely to May. She stayed close at first, but soon found herself talking with coworkers and neighbors. She laughed freely, her face bright in the sunlight. Jack watched from a distance. He felt proud, though he didn't fully understand why. Later that evening, as they drove home, May rested her head against the seat. "I never thought I would feel like this again," she said softly. "Like what?" Jack asked. "Like I belong somewhere." Jack nodded. "You do." Time continued its quiet work. Seasons changed, and with them the small fears May once carried began to fade. She handled her own responsibilities, made her own choices, and stood on her own feet. Jack never stepped in unless she asked. Respect mattered to both of them. One night after dinner, May sat across from Jack at the table. "I want to talk," she said. Jack looked up. "Okay." "I am thinking about the future," she continued. "Not just work, life." Jack listened carefully. "I don't want to depend on anyone," she said, "but I also don't want to run from good things." Jack nodded slowly. "That makes sense." She looked at him directly. "What do you want?" Jack was quiet for a long moment. He had not asked himself that question in years. "I want peace," he said finally. "And honesty." May smiled. "Me too." Nothing dramatic happened after that conversation. No sudden changes, no big promises, but something settled between them, something strong and calm. As months passed, May saved money and became more independent. She could have moved fully into town at any time. Jack knew that. She knew it too. Yet every evening she still returned to the ranch. One winter evening, almost a year after they first met, snow began to fall again. Jack stood on the porch, watching the fields turn white. May joined him, wrapping a scarf around her neck. "It looks like the night we met," she said. Jack nodded. "Yes, Christmas Eve." She smiled softly. "I was so afraid." "And now?" Jack asked. She thought for a moment. "Now I'm not." They stood there in silence, watching the snow. "Jack," May said quietly, "thank you for that night." He shook his head gently. "You were brave, you chose to step forward." She looked at him. "And you opened the door," Jack smiled. That Christmas they didn't exchange gifts. They didn't need to. They cooked a meal together, sat by the fire, and talked about small things. It felt right. Life didn't suddenly become perfect. There were still challenges, still hard days, but there was trust now, and respect, and something that felt like home. May no longer saw herself as someone who needed saving. Jack no longer saw himself as someone meant to be alone. They were simply two people who met at the right moment and chose kindness over fear. As the fire crackled softly and the snow fell outside, both understood something important. Home wasn't a place offered out of pity. It was something built slowly, with patience, care, and one simple sentence spoken on a cold Christmas Eve. And that was enough.